Good evening. Welcome to the PoliticIt podcast. Tonight we have Yemi Arunsi.
Arunsi, yes.
Yeah, and nice to have you. Yami is running to be the Davis County Republican chair.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, nice to have you speak with us. So, let's talk a little bit about your background. I mean, you first went to UMass, is that right?
Yes, UMass, out in Boston, Massachusetts, yes.
And what did you study?
So I studied nursing. That was
Okay.
my bachelor's degree. Yeah.
And so after that, did you go work at a hospital or?
No, right after that, I went and got my master's degree right after.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I went to Northeastern University first. I did my health informatics degree, my master's out there. And at the same time, concurrently, I was working for the Department of Veterans Affairs. So I started, as an analyst. We were, where we work on, disability claims for
Right.
veterans, to help them with their benefits and making those rating decisions. So that's where I started.
So informatics, just so people know, is an information systems kind of
Correct.
thing, right? But more analytical.
Yes.
Right. So yeah, I actually teach data analytics at
nice.
Utah State. Well, that's cool. And so then you went and got a master's in healthcare administration.
Correct. Yeah. So I got an additional master's, an MHA per se, over at Dartmouth College in New Hampshire.
Uh-huh.
So I did that as well because I've been in healthcare since I started day one,
Right.
and just wanted to further that advancement of knowledge. So Dartmouth was a place to go. They had amazing professors that I always looked up to. Some of the individuals that were in charge of developing the whole idea of the ACO, the Accountable Care Organization. So
Right.
I knew that was where I needed to be to get more information and
Yeah.
education. Yeah.
Well, it's kind of nice to have an Ivy League degree too, right?
It's helpful. It helps. Absolutely.
So how did you end up at Intermountain?
Yeah. So it all started with my wife, really. At the time I was working in DC, and I was working as a special assistant to the Secretary of Veterans Affairs. And so I was doing that working, and I came out to Utah for a BYU football game.
Oh,
And while I was there, I met my now wife, and we were dating long distance.
oh wow.
So when we decided we needed to, she's from Utah, from Davis County. When we decided we wanted to come back to Utah, I sort of like wanted to continue that same mission of taking care of patients and doing great work in healthcare. And so with a nursing background and, also with an advanced degree in healthcare administration, Intermountain was a great place, great mission, great values, and it was a no-brainer. So I jumped at the opportunity.
Yeah, it's kind of they're a very revolutionary company, I think, given that I know their insurance company is split off,
Yeah.
but they still share a lot of information back and forth, which makes it really, really nice for looking at, healthcare,
Yes.
right, and being able to manage, keeping people well, really, rather
Yeah.
than just fixing things that are wrong, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And their mission is as it states directly, keeping people healthy, helping people live healthier lives. And in healthcare, that's the main thing. Primary care is one of the major aspects of healthcare. And the organization focuses on helping reducing those disparities in healthcare, helping access to rural communities, and also those things that they call like social determinants of health, which accounts for, if I were going to quantify it, about 80% of your health outcome. And I think Intermountain has been very revolutionary on going in and digging deep into those, healthcare access.
Right.
Absolutely, yeah.
Very nice. So tell me a little bit about your family.
Yeah, so my parents are from Lagos, Nigeria.
Oh, wow.
Well, actually, they're from the southeastern part of Nigeria, which is called Abia. It's Abia. That's where they're from a very remote village. And they came out to the United States went at a very young age, and they came out here for their education. So my father came out, and while he was in the United States, one of the things that he saw was the system of government that was here. that was very, very, it was amazing to him. And, after he finished his education, he knew he wanted to take all of what he learned, his education and also like the system of government here, he wanted to take it back and make Nigeria, his home country, a better place. So, we all moved back after he was done with his college degree. He started a life there, built a small business using those same foundational knowledge that he learned in school. And shortly after, he ran for elected position in Nigeria. He got elected.
Wow.
Yeah, he got elected. He started off at a state level. He was the Speaker of the House in his state.
Wow.
And subsequently ran for federal office and got elected as well. So, while we were there, I remember when...
Brad Wilson's got to be nervous with you running the party there, your fellow Davis County representative.
No, I think he's fairly safe. He's he's a great leader, and I'm nowhere close to that.
Yeah. That's cool because you also have Stuart Adams in
yes
Davis
as well.
County, too.
Davis County is we have a lot of good leadership out there
Yeah.
in Davis County. People that I look up to and that are doing a very great job. Very excellent job. Yeah.
So your dad was Speaker. Yeah. Then what did he do after that?
So it actually took a huge turn of events happened where, as he got elected, so after like a couple of years, there was a military coup.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, which is very, very...
Which isn't good.
Which is not good. You'd never want that in your country or wherever it is you're from. So that happened, and we were in hiding for like for a while because, when that happens, the whole democratically elected government is gone overnight. And those folks try to round up those, because, that's where they probably think the dissent is going to happen from.
Right.
And they try to. So I remember as a young child, we were running from place to place in hiding, trying to escape and all that. And, which wasn't really, fun as a child. But as a child, I thought it was fun in some ways because we got to go to different hotels and we would eat, different types of food. And I thought it was, oh, this is nice. But as I got older, I realized that wasn't a good period in time. One of my not fun, but vivid experiences was when we, there was the day we had to rush out of the house and we were driving, we were passing by the American Embassy in Lagos, Nigeria. And, I looked out of the window as a young child and I saw, Marines in front of those embassy gates. And, I'm like peeking through the window and I'm like, who are those people? Like, no one is stepping close to them, right? There was some unrest going on and no one like stepped close to the embassy.
Right.
They had the Marines out, they had the American flag just waving, just blowing back and forth. And I'm like, wow, whatever is going on in there, I want to be part of that. And, fast forward, I moved back to the States and that's when I go to college. And so that's how I sort of that evolution of my background and experiences that I had really translated to me being here and being in the United States in Massachusetts and then ending up in DC and then coming to Utah to really start my family and then ultimately seeking this position.
Right.
Yeah.
That's really fascinating. It bothers me when I hear people saying, college students a lot today are all pro socialism and they think that's that America's so bad, but it really is the greatest country on the face of the earth, in my opinion.
I've seen the other side and I don't want to go back.
Yeah.
I don't if we lose America, there's nowhere else to go. I fondly watch tapes of Ronald Reagan, and there's I was watching this episode where he talked about he said a story about him and I think a few friends talking about one of a Cuban exile had like returned had like come to the United States, and he's like, I feel like, someone said that he feels lucky. He's like, well, you're talking about luck. I'm lucky that I had America to run to. Yeah. That is the definition of lucky. And I look at it and I think of American exceptionalism as just, that is what we need. We need more of that. We need more of our young, our kids, our college students really recognizing how valuable this country is. And I know there are, a lot of people that love this country, and we need that voice to be amplified more. Yeah.
Well, and I think a lot of young people don't recognize that the great equalizer in society is education.
Absolutely.
And it's fabulous that you could come from Nigeria and go to some of the finest schools in the United States.
Yeah, I agree. And people say, there's a lot of talk about privilege in our country, and I say, privilege is not about skin color. Privilege starts with being an American.
Right.
Period. And the greatest equalizer that, and I understood that from a very young age from my father, who came to the United States to to go to school, because he understood that that's where it started. And I recognized that at an early age.
So where did he go to school?
He went to Baruch College in New York, and
wow.
he did accounting.
He did accounting.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting.
So he did that, and I think I didn't follow that trade line, but but I thought healthcare was something that I really was passionate about, and helping people. Service has just always been, innate to me. Service before self, as the Air Force says.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's fabulous. Yeah. So let's take a break.
Oh yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
And then we'll come back.
Greetings, Davis County. My name is Yemi Arunsi, and I'm running for the chairmanship of the Davis County Republican Party. I chose to run for this position for a variety of reasons. One of them being that I love Davis County and everything Davis County represents. My wife and I love this beautiful community, from hardworking school teachers, firemen, police officers, and small business owners. Utah has seen a record population growth, and Davis County is no different. According to some estimates, Davis County is expected to grow by 8 to 10% in the next few years. Population growth is great for the local economy, and we welcome that. However, we have seen our neighbors, Salt Lake County and Weber County, lose key leadership positions to Democrats, and we know the Democrats are planning to mount significant challenges in Davis County as our population grows. This is why the next few weeks to years are very crucial, and the Davis County Republican Party needs someone with experience in grassroots organizing, fundraising, and providing precision strategy for the candidates that you, the delegates, vet and select. I plan to double our fundraising goal by reaching out and building the relationships with grassroots and donors of all kinds. I also plan to get more young Republicans from Davis County involved. Defending our tradition in electing and supporting our representatives is key, because when Republicans cease to lead, chaos inevitably follows. I am more than confident than ever that despite the upcoming challenges, we have it within our power to overcome any adversity that comes our way. Together we can, and I ask for your vote for chairman of the Davis County Republican Party. Thank you.
We're back here with Yemi Arunsi,
Yes.
and running for Davis County chair for the GOP. So, Yami, I'm kind of curious, how did you get involved with politics first, and why Republican?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think part of it too is that to start with, my father obviously at a young age, when he went into politics, sort of like set that initial idea in my head. But when I came back to the United States, I started off in Boston, and so I always tell people I was born in New York, grew up in Boston. There is no reason why I should be a Republican, right? Because those are two huge Democratic states. But sort of when I started out in as a young child, 17 years old, when I came to Massachusetts, initially, as an African American, the idea is, generally speaking, it's the route is the Democratic Party.
Right.
That's just a general conversation that goes on. How can you be a Republican, right? Like, it's a Democratic Party. That's what we do.
Yeah.
So, I initially was a Democrat. I was a registered Democrat in Boston. And, when I was in college, I started, once I was getting involved and just seeing a lot of the policies that the Democratic Party was, sort of pushing, the taking away from just the family concept, or at least not necessarily taken away, but like the nonchalant nature of, you know, maybe a disregard to just how, the family unit and those, a lot of those values, and I knew I wasn't aligned. It just never aligned for me, and I just gradually started coming away from that, and in Massachusetts, and I remember when I told my friends and family that I'm not a Democrat, and I don't follow a lot of those liberal views, and you're sort of, it's like you're an outcast, right? That's
Right.
sort of what that trajectory goes to. But I knew that this is where conservatism and was my route, and Justice Scalia was someone that I started reading very early and watching a lot of his videos, and just his views on the Constitution, about it not being this live breathing document that changes based on society, social
Pressures.
pressures, and he was so in on that, and that was very enticing to me. And I also saw the fact that him and Justice Ginsburg were good friends, and he could still have a debate with her,
Right.
but at the same time, he could, like, was very friendly with her, but at the same time, like, he knew where he stood, and that brand of conservatism, and was very appealing to me. And Ronald Reagan as well was someone that I listened to in when I was in Nigeria, so I knew where home was for me.
Right.
And I've seen the other side. I've seen what it brings, and I personally don't want to be part of that, and that's why I became a Republican. I conservative through and through. Like, that's where my compass
Right.
leans towards. So that's how I got there. And why politics now? When I was in DC, so I had the opportunity to work on a few Republican campaigns while I was in Massachusetts. There was this period in time in Massachusetts where Mitt Romney got elected,
Right.
which was just unheard of. Obviously, a Republican getting elected in Massachusetts, and then subsequently Governor Baker was another Republican that won the governor position in Massachusetts, and that revitalized Republicans in Massachusetts. And we were part of that revolution, you would say. And we knew, like, okay, even though we're in a Democratic stronghold, that doesn't mean that we stop working.
Right.
That doesn't mean we stop organizing. And we just kept at it and kept going. Even though we lost seats, we knew we're not going to stop, because we loved our principles and our values. And, subsequently I had the opportunity to then go to DC and eventually work under the Trump administration as a special assistant to the Secretary of the VA, who was appointed by President Trump. So we did great work. We helped eliminate veteran homelessness in DC, which a lot of people don't really know about, which
Right.
generally hasn't been done anywhere.
Right.
We did great work for veterans. The Mission Act, the PACT Act, just expanding benefits for veteran care and their benefits, like the Agent Orange for Vietnam veterans, World War II veterans. I mean, it was just so great work we did, and I was like, wow, this is the true impact that an individual, like, we can make if we really put our heart and minds into it. Like, this is the right party. We have great ideas for our country, and yeah, that's why I was like, when this position opened up for Davis County, I say, I've been in Utah with my wife. She's from Davis County, and we love this county. I love this country. It's done so much for me. I'm so passionate about it, and I know that I have to bring the skills that I have in fundraising, in working in grassroots campaign,
Right.
to bring it to Davis County. And I look at the inverse of how Massachusetts was with supermajority in terms of Democrats, right? But Republicans were able to win some major seats, right? The governor's seat.
Right.
And I the inverse of that is where Utah is today, right?
Right.
We're susceptible. It's not a given that we're always going to have a supermajority, right? And anything can happen, but anything can happen if we don't do our due diligence,
Right.
if we don't stay alert. So that's why yeah, that's why I'm here today.
That's really cool. So when did you start being involved in Davis County?
I started the minute we moved. So we moved here about 4 years ago, and so I just started getting involved right off the bat and just seeking out, who's working where's the county party, what's going on, and then COVID hit,
Yeah.
which kind of put a damper on all of that work, or at least me seeking out. But then once COVID was over and everyone started coming back in, I started getting heavily involved and, just learning, I learned the lay of the land. I was getting involved with state politics, knowing, meeting people, introducing myself. And I had a lot of people who I've worked with in DC as well, under the Utah front. I, knew them from my time in DC and, who were showing me around and introducing me to good people and good conservatives out here in Utah. So that's my level of involvement. And I'm a vice precinct chair in my precinct. So I think, get out the vote is a lot of things that I...
So what motivated you to decide to be the chair?
Yeah, it's, I think, well, not that I think, but, when you look at the leadership team in the House and the Senate, we have, good leadership there. We have people who are, doing great work for our county. And I think that for me, like coming into the chair position, I think one of the main areas that I want to impact is fundraising. I know I have, the skills, the experience to raise money for our county. And also as a healthcare informaticist, that informatics area or experience that I have in analytics is, I've gone in depth into the data within Davis County. I've looked at the history, for the past 20 years on our, voting history, on our financial history, and I've gone into that, in depth,
Right.
and I've seen that we do have some holes that we need to fill, and I think I can bridge that gap. For instance, in terms of fundraising, I've seen that we've lost a lot of good donors in Davis County. We've lost them. In the past 20 years, I think we've raised about 8 million, maybe 8.5 million past 20 years, and about 6.97%. So let's call it 7% are from small donors. So that's donors 1,000 and under, right?
Right. Wow.
And that's a little bit alarming, and we've lost those big donors, right? We know about grassroots, right?
Right.
I'm a fact-oriented person. The best way to get donations is to work with our grassroots, and also go get back those big donors, those people that are donating a lot of money to the county party. Where have they gone? We've seen the data. Corporations that have been donating are no longer donating to Davis County. And the question is why? And I'm not saying anyone has done a terrible job or whatever, but just in terms of my experience and what I can do, because I'm able to identify where our loopholes are and then plug them in and see how we can get those big donors back and also maintain our grassroots, because our grassroots they are donating,
Right.
but we have to supplement that with also people that are donating big time. That 6.97% accounts to, a regular, a donor, on the lower side, right? The small donors, the grassroots donors, donating $50 a day since 2001.
Oh, wow.
So sorry, $50 a year
Okay.
for the past 20 years. And that still came up to 6.7%.
Right.
So it's clearly not enough.
Right.
So we need to, so that's an area that I know I can bring really good strategic help to the party, and I can add some value to it.
Yeah, that's very good. It's nice to be able to talk to you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're about out of time, so why don't you just look into the camera and make a pitch to the delegates in Davis County?
Yeah, absolutely. So first and foremost, I'm very, very fortunate to be here. Very honored to be here asking you for your vote for the chairmanship of the Davis County Republican Party. My goals are going to be, number one, to listen to you. I do have skills that I've learned throughout the years helping Republican campaigns nationally and in DC as well. And my number one goal is to help with fundraising. I've seen the numbers. I've dug deep into what's going on, and we're gonna double our efforts. We're gonna raise more money for you so that we can get the things that you need. We're gonna bring in good people to good speakers so we can fundraise as much as we can. Number two is that we're going to work on bringing young Republicans into the fold. As a young person myself, as someone that's a young Republican as well, I know what it takes to get young Republicans back into the fold. We're seeing that some people are tuning us out based on the contention that we're seeing within our party. I'm going to make sure that we bring people together. Comprehensive effort on recruitment, making sure we have good candidates running, and also we're going to raise so much money that we're going to do the right thing. We're going to have great events for you. So I'm asking you for your vote to represent you with honor and distinction, and always make you proud that you've made the right selection in me. And I will always keep working for you every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Yemi.
That's it.
Yemi Arunsi, very, very, very nice to have you,
Thank you so much.
on my podcast. It's great to hear your background. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, we'll see you next week.